Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today at OPAT's Commission Community Meeting. This is our third meeting of the year. I'm Evandro Carvalho. I am the Executive Director of the Office of Police Accountability and Transparency. As you just heard, I often say it OPAT for short. And as the Executive Director, I also serve as the chair of the OPAT Commission. It is now 5:12 p.m., October 30th, and I'm calling this meeting to order. This is, as I said again, the third public meeting that we are having as the OPAT Commission, and we will have another one before the end of the year. At this point, I'd like to ask or perhaps acknowledge my two counterparts to introduce themselves. One is the chair of the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel to my right. Sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Fugate, practicing attorney for 46 years. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And to my left is the chair of the Civilian Review Board.
Hi, my name is Sam Harold. I'm the chair of the Civilian Review Board, and I'm a public defender at the Roxbury office.
Thank you. I also failed to mention, but since the two gentlemen said, I am also an attorney, so I'm a proud attorney as well.
Too many lawyers. Too many lawyers.
Too many lawyers. Not enough lawyers. Before I begin today, I'd like to ask for a brief moment of silence in honor of a great man,
Yes.
Judge Leslie Harris, who passed away a couple weeks ago. Judge Harris was, in fact, the founding chair of OPAT's Internal Affairs Oversight Panel.
Yes.
So he had the seat that you had, now have, and this is one of many roles he's played over the years, over decades of service in the city of Boston. And in fact, for me personally, he was a mentor, someone that I can always call upon for guidance. And I will say that he was very influential in bringing me to OPAT. Because of the work that we've done together in the past. And, obviously folks hopefully can see his picture on the wall, on the slides. In fact, there's been many articles. I have one here from the Boston Globe where they call him a giant. In fact, I quote this language that I thought was very powerful because it embodies who he was. He was one of the greatest advocates for young kids, young teens, this city's ever seen. And I'll repeat it because I stumbled on an error here. He was one of the greatest advocates for young people this city has ever seen. He worked as a high school teacher. He was a probation officer before becoming a public defender as well, right? In Roxbury defender. In fact, he was one of the critical people in the Stewart case that I'm sure folks probably have seen. If you haven't seen it, the Stewart case is a powerful case in the city of Boston, and there was a police misconduct, certainly of BPD, and there was a Netflix series about it. Yes. Folks interested in learning, and also you can Google the subject as well. But I just wanted to again just dedicate this moment for him. I personally will miss him. May he rest in peace. Thank you. And so this is, again, one of 4 meetings that we're going to have this year on behalf of the OPAT Commission. I like to always, because these meetings happen every quarter, I like to just kind of start briefly with summarizing what OPAT is and who we are and why we exist. And in fact, OPAT was created through a City of Boston code. It's an ordinance, a law in the City of Boston, Chapter 12, Section 16. It was created in 2020 to serve as an independent civilian agency to provide oversight over the Boston Police Department. The purpose is to serve as a single point of entry for individuals with concerns or complaints related to the Boston Police Department and its officers. We exist primarily to investigate complaints of misconduct, to ensure that the Boston Police Department Internal Affairs review process is thorough and fair, and to review Boston Police Department's existing and proposed policies and procedures. Typically, after I do this, we go right into, the agenda, kind of just reviewing what the agenda is for today. We do have a packed agenda, so if you find me speaking fast, it's because I'm trying to get to as much information as possible. Because I don't get to have you gentlemen with me on a weekly basis. But the agenda for today, most of it again is sort of as typical. We'll review and approve the past meeting minutes, which occurred, I believe it was August 13th. It was the last meeting that we had. Then I'll take a few minutes to provide a quick report as the executive director of OPAT, to just kind of give people an update in terms of some of the work we've been doing over the past quarter. And I'm proud to say too that we're going to be discussing perhaps a few minutes the annual report that we released earlier this month, the OPAT annual report, the fiscal year 2025 annual report. You will learn again, it's on our website. You have the opportunity to review it for members of the public. Then we'll go into a discussion, ongoing discussion around OPAT's regulations, and also around some recent letters that OPAT has sent to BPD commissioner, particularly from each board. Both of the gentlemen part of those processes that sent those letters. So that's something that we should discuss a bit. And then we'll go into potentially other businesses if there's anything that comes up that I didn't anticipate. And finally, we'll have the opportunity, perhaps the most important part of this meeting, is to have public comment, if any. If individuals, unable to make comments today, they can certainly do it through email and go to our website, email is opat@boston.gov, or you can find us at boston.gov/OPAT. Obviously, you can just Google OPAT too. So if you have any questions or emails, comments for us, you can send it there. You also can go to OPAT boards at boston.gov. So, or you can come down to Dudley to Dudley Station, now called Newton Square, and give your comments at 2201 Washington Street. We're down the street from the Bowling Building. Okay, so hopefully you had the opportunity now to look at the minutes of last meeting in August that we drafted. And, if there's any corrections to the minutes, please let me know as presented. If not, we can approve it and move on to the next agenda item.
I'll read through them, and at this time, I'd make a motion that they be accepted as is.
I second that motion.
Thank you. In that case, we'll accept the minutes and approve the minutes of August 13, 2025. Thank you, gentlemen. So our next order of business is, again, and I'll try to be brief here. I know we have slide going on, so I'll try to speed to some of the slides because I really want to get to some of the annual report stuff. But I wanted to just kind of give you a quick glance of what happened over the last few months at OPAT since we last met. Next slide, please, so I can just see. Here, we'll start with the complaints, right? As I said earlier, we investigate complaints that we receive primarily from the division of the city of Boston. And you see the total number of complaints that we received last quarter, which is from August. This is a bit skewed in the sense that it's from August of this year to now, essentially. We have 34 complaints that we received. You can see again that a lot of them were around neglect of duty, and abuse of power, and some harassment. You will see below a little bit as well in terms of demographics of the complaints, with Black and African American people being perhaps more than half of the around half, if you will, of the complainants, and that's not sort of like an off-on thing. It's something that's continues to happen. You will see in the annual report that I believe at least 45 to 50% of the complaints that we get is from people, from Black people in the city of Boston. 7 from white people, 3 from Latino, and 8 people declined to answer. Women in this situation being 17 female, 11 male, and 6 declined to answer. And more importantly, down on the next block, you will see that we had meetings from both boards that you both sit on. Particularly, the CRB met on September 11th, and we heard 6 cases there. And the dispositions of those cases again are listed there. And we have reports of all the decisions online if people are inclined to go see as well. We had 2 sustained cases with 8 sustained allegations within those cases, 2 not sustained, 2 further information inquiries, and 1 unfounded. Again, this is based on the meeting that the CRB had in September. Earlier this month, too, in October 6th, the IOP board, the IOP is short for Internal Affairs Oversight Panel, which again, Tony Fugate leads. We had a meeting where there was one case that was decided that they reviewed. Actually, there was another case that was more of a pass through, if you will.
Yes.
That's not detailed in the data, but there was more than one case decided. And we also had a substantial discussion around policies and some of the things that the IOP is hoping to accomplish in the future. So next slide, I'll briefly cover some of the things that's also going on beyond the complaints of the case. You will see that, building capacity, community engagement, communications is still a key priority for us. And in that space, we have hired, I'm proud to say, who's in front of me here, Corey Jordan is our community engagement specialist that started, I believe, a week ago. And we have 2 investigators that are starting on Monday. So, next time we'll have certainly, we'll continue to, obviously, we have a lot of cases that come before the board, but that number will continue to increase. And we'll also have a director of finance who's starting November 17th. Thank you. So we're going to be on board in 3 new people in the next couple of weeks. I also wanted to just kind of talk, and some of this will come up later as well, but and it's come up in the past. I've talked to the post-commission executive director Enrique, and about how can we work together closer. Right, Post is the sort of the counterpart of OPAT at the state level that does police accountability. And he and I had a meeting last week talking about some ways to partner together. Okay, we also for the first time put on our website. We have a bunch of dashboards. From details of our complaints, how many complaints we got, and we also most recently put on a nature of complaints dashboard, which just tells you what kind of complaints we're getting in OPAT. Okay, I think that's good here. I'll also I've said this the last meeting, and I'll keep saying it because it's an important thing for us here. So we'll continue to do community engagement, which is why, again, Corey is here. We're doing office coffee hours, executive director coffee hours every other Friday. We're having one tomorrow in South Boston. We've been all across the city at this point. And we're also going to be doing our open door days next Wednesday, November 5th, at 3:30 to 5:30 at OPAT. This is something that we try to do every month, that we open our doors to the community and we focus on the particular issues or talk about the complaints or talk about some policy. It's just another way for us to be accessible to the community. Our social media, again, will continue to try to be more engaging in that space. As I said, again, we released the annual report. And in the annual report, it's sort of a subsection in this part of the agenda. But it essentially is the fiscal year 2025 annual report. I'm very proud that we were able to release this important report October 10th, earlier this month. And the report essentially talks about the work that OPAT has been doing since July 1st. Do you mind, can you shut the door? It's a little hot, but kids are screaming a little bit. Sorry, we're at a youth center. I forgot to mention earlier, I should have mentioned this earlier, I apologize. So I'll stop here and do that. I really want to say thank you to Vine Street Community Center and the leaders at this youth center. This is why you could probably hear some screams in the background because kids are playing around. But we up the street here near on Dudley Street at Vine Street Community Center, having this meeting in public. So I want to say thank you to the folks that run this building for the opportunity and the accessibility of this building. So that reminded me to do that, and that was an important thing to do. So I skipped that. I apologize. So I won't take too much time on that report. It is on our website. People can go to our website and see it. But if you want copies of it in person, you can come to. It's only about 20 pages. We work very purposeful in terms of making sure we don't have too much information, but just enough that people can get a sense of what we've been up to. Okay, and the focus again, particularly over the past year, has been on trying to rebuild OPAT. As we know, as I said in the past, obviously I'm a new ED of a year and a half. We have a new deputy, we have a new policy data analyst, we have a new community engagement, we have new board members. So we've been in a period of rebuilding. And but within that space, again, community engagement has been a focus of OPAT, and also making sure that we're executing the meetings that we're required to do, particularly of the boards. So I'll speak. I don't know. Okay, that's a little. How big is it over there? It's a little kind of small, but hopefully people can see.
You can check your remarks, it's a breakdown here.
Yeah, no, I actually see it here, but I kind of wanted to make sure that people can see. These are the highlights that we have here, and you can see again that we've had 14 bi-weekly coffee hours over across Boston. And this actually was in a matter of 6 months that we were able to execute this, because most of this started after the turn of the year of this year. So we had 6 monthly open door days at our office in Newbern Square. We participated in over 30 community events citywide. We executed a social media and digital billboard campaign to educate people both in English and in Spanish about what OPAT does. We've seated OPAT's 3 boards fully. This is and I'm proud to say that. I'll say it again. This is the first time that we had full participation of the board. The board has not had to skip any meetings. We have 3. Obviously, the 2 chairs with me today are new board members, and we sitting 9 new members across both boards. We also had 6 public board meetings again with the CRB and IOP boards, which the chairs here were present for some of them. We also had, which I thought was very important, we had a meeting with some of the original members of the Boston Police Task Force members that, for those that don't know the history of OPAT, these are the folks that made recommendations to create OPAT back in 2020 in light of the unrest and civil unrest that was going on in the country, and certainly in the city of Boston, because of police killing of Black people throughout the country, particularly culminating with the killing of George Floyd during COVID. That's the short history, if you will, of OPAT. We also rebooted, if you will, our dashboards that I just mentioned. Unfortunately, we had a period where some of that was down, but we were able to uplift all that work. And we have dashboards on arrests, use of force, incidents of BPD, stops, and many other things. We also I want to pause here and say that I'm proud that we had 137 complaints that came through our office during this period, with CRB sustaining 19 allegations of misconduct. This was a 43% increase, essentially, of not increase, but of total sustained complaints that we had. If you remember correctly, folks, you might have seen some of this in the news. When I first came into this position, there was sort of the sentiment that OPAT was not holding BPD accountable because a lot of the cases, unfortunately for different reasons, were being dismissed or sustained things like that, right? We also created a CRB policy committee, that subcommittee that I think is very important. In fact, we'll talk about the letter that they issued. Even, I'll mention again, even something as simple as signage. We now have a big sign of saying, Office of Police Accountability in front of our building, which we didn't have before. And I'll talk briefly about some of the data here, because again, I don't want to keep going on and on because people can see this online. It is, if I may say so, I think it's a very succinct and very, user-friendly, if you will, report that people can read themselves. But I want to focus briefly here at something I alluded to earlier, is that 46% of our complaints that came in through the last fiscal year came in from Black Bostonians. And despite, obviously, we know that Black people are 22% of the city's population. And 45% of the people that were arrested by BPD were also, again, coincidentally, right? It's all the data, it's all sort of makes sense. 45% of the people that were arrested were Black people in the city of Boston, and 56% of the use of force were against on Black people as well. Okay. The next slide, thank you. We'll see the pie here, and I'll go quickly through here, but this just kind of shows you some of the nature of complaints I was talking about earlier, which there are different kinds in there you can see in the pie. But the biggest one that we had was neglect of duty. That's number one, 46% of the complaints. And then, which just means, to kind of just break it down briefly, just means that somebody called the police for something typically, and the police did not do what the person thought they should have been doing. Not doing their job, their duty, if you will. Number two is disrespectful treatment. Again, that kind of speaks for itself. And number three is abuse of power, okay? And next, I'll talk about geography of complaints, with Dorchester taking a quarter of the complaints. Dorchester, as we know, is the biggest part of the city of Boston, so there's no sort of shock there. Number two is Boston with South Boston with 12%, which will be in South Boston tomorrow. As I said, the coffee hour, downtown neighborhoods, 11%, South End, 8%, and Roxbury, 8%, okay? So as I wrap up this segment, I really just kind of want to talk briefly about some of the priorities that we have for this fiscal year, right? Which is FY 2026, which again, we're already in I believe, second quarter of it now. And it goes into June of 2026. And some of this, I'm proud to say that we already well into it. In a sense, you could see again, operationalizing the subpoena power that we have. So we're already making headways in that, with progress in that. We also want to continue to expand our community outreach into every part of the city of Boston. I'm also hoping to, one of the things that we are required to do by ordinance actually is to try to mediate some of our cases. So we're going to try to see if there's a way to pilot program to start mediating some cases. As unfortunately, there's many reasons why this hasn't happened. One of which is that mediation is volunteer. It's voluntary. People don't have to do it, and we've had some barriers with people committing to do mediation, but we're still trying to push that forward. The other thing that we've had in the past that I'm trying to revitalize is our OPAT Youth Advisory Council. Folks should know that we have a youth delegate, particularly on the Civilian Review Board, the CRB. So we're trying to focus. In fact, just this afternoon, we had a meeting about some of the work around this space involving the youth in our city. There'll be more information about this, but this is a good opportunity for youth in our city to engage in the work that OPAT does. We also want to make sure that we continue to issue reports, including our semi-annual reports that we're required to do. And finally, we're going to try to hopefully, again, build some partnerships, as I said earlier, with hopefully with Post, but other agencies, including the Attorney General's office, perhaps the DA's office, to figure out how do we sort of, as a team, get the job done. And obviously continue to work with the city leadership, BPD, Commissioner Cox, and certainly Mayor Wu and her team. And in fact, I'm proud to say we just had a meeting with the new chief of staff of the mayor's office, Clegg Kelly, just less than an hour before we came here to talk about some of these partnerships. Clegg Kelly just already was in the city in a different role, but now is the new chief of staff, for those that do not know, for the mayor. Okay, so let me read. I really was speeding, so hopefully people didn't understand. I wanted to get to some of this discussion that we're about to have now, which is the next section, hopefully around the letters. Okay, the letters that went out. And I don't want to provide too much context on this because you both probably could do better than me, but I will just give a general overview, which is on September 11th, again, the last meeting that the CRB had, they agreed to send a letter to BPD Commissioner Cox addressing two primary concerns. One is an issue that unfortunately OPAT has had since I started, certainly, and even before, which is just trying to have the police officers cooperate with our investigation. That's been an issue for us. So this letter, and again, this letter, thank you for putting that up in the slides. Perhaps it's a little small, but people can also find it again on our website. You can see the details of the letter, expressing concerns about the non-cooperation of the officers and recommending that the commissioner, recommends at least to the officers that they participate. They also focus on essentially the non-responsive of some responsiveness of some of the letters, recommendations, that the CRB was making. And for folks that are at home, when the CRB, and I say CRB is the Civilian Review Board here, chaired by Sam, they make a decision on a case. They make a decision and we write a report and send it to the commissioner to execute that recommendation essentially. Unfortunately, we've had some delays with responses, not coming in on time or not coming in at all. And there's also, recommendations about making sure that the commissioner is listening, is paying attention to those recommendations, which is another thing that we face, which is unfortunately the commissioner not following some of those recommendations that the CRB made. So those are things. I mean, that letter has many other things. I won't take too much time to go into that, but I'll just introduce the other letter from the IOP side, and then we'll have a dive if you're willing to in terms of some of these topics and issues. As I said earlier this month, the OPAT, the IOP met earlier this month and also sent a letter to the commissioner. And the letter essentially the letter told the commissioner that we should also get what's called these automatic appeals. Okay, is the letter up? Thank you. And so all of this, by the way, for folks at home, this is in our ordinance in terms of what our jurisdiction is, what particularly the IOP can review. And some of the offenses, if you will, allegations, are supposed to be sent automatically to OPAT after the Internal Affairs Division look at it. Okay, I always try to take time to explain because I don't know who's the new people that are watching. So the key role that the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel plays is that they review decisions that are made by the Internal Affairs Division of BPD. The people call the IAD. Okay, and so the decisions that they make, people can appeal to us. But also, there's some offenses, if you will, that should be coming to us automatically. And that's what this letter is about. Use of force cases, obviously, serious cases of even death when people die in custody, allegations of theft, perjury, and so on. So these are things that essentially the letter is asking BPD commissioner to make sure that we start getting those automatically. Because customarily right now, the practice has not been that we review those cases automatically. So that was that. And as a final note to this, I wanted to bring in, it's not in your files, but bring in the letter that we agreed upon that I was going to send on behalf of the commission, right? Right. I didn't send that letter for some good reasons. And I'll share a couple here, and I want us to kind of talk about some of this, okay? Now, partly why that letter didn't go out is because the issue that we addressed, which again was non-responsive, right? Remember that last meeting was around some of the cases, the response that the commissioner said and what he was going to do in those cases, and then about non-responsiveness of those letters and so on. So I thought, I wanted us to have a final look at the, and we'll do that later, of the regulations that we drafted. I know we voted on the subpoena and the 45 days and at least one more thing, but because we didn't actually, the language was sort of drafted on the spot, I wanted to bring it back in front of us to sort of look at the language that did come out in writing so that we can vote finally on it. True. But number two, and this is just food for thought here. I'm not saying we make a decision now, but I think that I might have mentioned to you all in passing is sort of the letters, right? So to me, trying to find which letter comes from which space is something to think about, right? Because we also, it's one thing to send like 3, 4, 5 letters, right? But it's another thing to sort of make sure that the letters are cohesive, that we're addressing things together. or we're addressing things separately, but done it intentionally, right? And again, if you look at the letter from the CRB, a lot of that stuff is stuff that we had already, that we already had decided that we're gonna send a letter on. So my thoughts on this, if, again, this is just food for thought on this, and then we'll go into the letters if you inclined to do so. But that perhaps that the letters that each board send, that they perhaps come through here. So that you sort of, particularly even in this case, you could have probably packaged the letters together and get one response, right? Because I get why we, you know, I appreciate the hard work, right? That we, and I'm certainly the CRB. In fact, we got another letter drafted from the CRB. I'm excited that we're getting the work done, but I also want to make sure it's in sync with the different ones, because meetings happen monthly. Sometimes how we're trying to execute and how quick we execute things, it may get in each other's way, right? And obviously the OPAT commission being the over, you know, the sort of the umbrella organization, right, agency, right? So I wanted to sort of just think about, again, we don't have to, you know, there's nothing in the ordinance that says, you know, letters have to go through the, you know, through the commission. In fact, I don't even know if it, that's addressed directly in there. But it's something to think about, because that is part of our job. As obviously both will represent the sort of that constituency, right? Represent each board. And then perhaps we can go back to those boards and have those debates as well. But in this situation, certainly, you know, it's just kind of like, okay, in a matter of 3 months, we could have 3, 4 letters. Now, again, I'm not saying we don't do letters. I'm also thinking about how to be impactful with the letters.
Yeah.
Right, so it's not, and then again, not doing everybody on, you know, on each other, right? So I'm just anticipating in the future, this sort of been an issue, because again, particularly with the last letter with CRB, a lot of that stuff we already had addressed, right? But sending those letters to the commissioner, and I'm not trying to get him off the hook, but again, we're not even getting responses from some of the other, from the cases, right? So I'm trying to be more sort of thoughtful about, okay, and actually, and Esther and I in particular met with the commissioner and delivered the CRB letter in person. We were talking about some of this stuff about, you know, how to be more deliberate in making sure, again, that things are done in a way that we can, that at least, you know, he can respond, you know, when, like, for instance, the letters went out. When is he gonna respond? When, how, you know, sort of,
Or if
so.
he even needs to.
Does he need to? Right, so
Yeah.
those are things, again, so that when it comes up in public, or, you know, because as you know, some of this particular around the CRP was in the news, right? So I'm just trying to sort of anticipate some of these cross, you know.
Yeah. And you know, I think that, you know, part of the idea, at least with the CRB letter, I don't want to speak for the subcommittee or the board altogether, because I know we all are very opinionated people and have different opinions.
So, but you're the chair,
But
you
no,
gotta
I
speak,
agree,
but
I
you
agree.
gotta speak, and you're on both with them.
But I think that
Mhm.
part of the purpose was maybe not that, you know, we wanted to sort of have this public letter,
Yeah.
facing letter to sort of shed light on what's going on and why we're feeling particularly stuck.
That makes sense.
And you know, I think that, you know, whether or not the commissioner responds, I think we would welcome a response. We want to work, we want to build a collaborative relationship with the Boston Police Department in every respect. And we respect the work that they do. You know, but I think that we're just not, we're not working together on this issue, on these issues. And we just want to work together, and we want to let people know that we're trying.
Yes, and
That's kind of like what it's the letter was just sort of like, listen, this is what we've been trying to do. We want help. We want help.
I agree. And that definitely, that came across.
Yeah.
For sure. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I am totally agreeing with that. You know, we clearly want to work with them. But at the same time, you know, respond, or if not respond, at least address the issue when the department that we're speaking about.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah, I think it's just, yeah, makes the work harder.
That's hard work.
Yeah.
and delays things.
It does,
Yeah.
it does. But again, I will say, obviously, we gotten some response back. And hopefully they'll continue to improve.
Yeah.
I have faith that they will, so. Okay, So we'll pause this for now, then we'll just kind of, again, I just wanted to sort of throw it out there, and obviously, actually, the CRB letter was to CC to the commission, to us, to OPAT commission. Even though I don't think the IOP one did, but I wanted to just make sure that, folks know that these letters out there too. In fact, it's been written about in the news, particularly the CRB letter. So just wanted to bring that up. And
And
so,
these letters appear on the website, is that correct?
correct.
So it's great that the community can take a firsthand peek at exactly what we're talking about
Correct.
in the position that we're taking.
All right, so let's table that for now.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so what's the next slide, Mike? So I know what I'm seeing, but I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you. So we'll spend some time here again. This is particularly this section is a section that we're going to continue to do for at least for next year or so, because we're going to slowly start to build out regulations, right? So let me give it to you now.
Are these the proposed regulations?
Oh, you have them, yes. Yes, yes, thank you. Yeah, I forgot that, yeah, so these are the regulations that we talked about last time.
Yeah.
You should have.
Yeah, what's that one? It's just this one.
It's this one, yeah. Right, so it's the three things that we agreed upon last time. But with concrete language here, so that we can vote again on it again. Not that we can't change it, but just to kind of have, this is the language that came out. And then we can officially make it, part of the regulation. So this is why it says two here at the top, is because we have one, right? The one is the original regulations, which we're also going to talk about briefly after this. But take a moment to take a look at, again, the first one is 2.01 is about the response, 45 days to the CRB. Actually, we should probably said the whole civilian review board. Just CRB, but, and to be honest, one of the things I was thinking about in looking at this 2.1, is it doesn't say about the responses to
IOPS.
right? Right, so does it make sense to say, and does the 45 days also work then? Because you.
With respect to CRB though, that's near the beginning of the investigative process.
Right.
Whereas with respect to IHOP, it's later on after the investigation. So I don't think.
No,
they
both
need as much time.
You would think.
That's a good point, right? So, the process, theirs is, well, it's still, it's at the end of our investigation,
Right.
because they voted on it.
No, that's
Right, so it's that, they voted on it, we send the recommendations, right? And then again, last time we saw that the recommendations were saying that his response was saying that he was gonna send it to IAD for further investigation, essentially, right? Which is one of the things that, again, the CRB letter addressed, right? So we're saying that the new regulation was given 45 days to respond to those letters of recommendations. Now, in that same vein, when you disagree, when the IOP disagrees with them, right now, in fact, I don't know, in practice, we're not getting responses on those either.
Have we had any responses or no?
We've had, I don't think it's like, at least with the IOP side, there has been paths in the past where the letters did come. I don't think,
No,
CRB, thank you, CRB, thank you. The acronyms, I know even the public are like, well, all the acronyms. This Civil Review Board, the CRB, okay? There's been practice, even though sometimes it's been, unfortunately, was late, but I don't think there was practice in the past.
That they responded to.
Correct. I don't, I can't find any responses. I'll tell you that much. In our database that says, if you disagree with this, but we did this. One case that we did, and did I explain this case? I think I explained it in another meeting. There was one case where involving an attorney that perhaps both of you know, Carlton. What's Carlton's last name?
Williams.
Thank you, Carlton Williams. This is before I started here, right? He had a case that went through ID, came through OPAT, and OPAT said, do more, essentially. Then more needed to be done. Actually, BPD did do more, but we never got the response back. It wasn't until Carlton, when I started, Carlton was like, I don't know what happened. You all didn't do anything. as I asked BPD, they were like, actually, we did do, and there was a whole new report about it, right?
Respond back.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, so I think we need to flush out the timeline around their response to you too, right? Because I think, in fact, one of the cases that we reported out now, you did disagree,
That's right.
right? So now you need, how long should it take him to respond? So that, I think officially, at minimum, when we have this 45 these days, then at least, OPAT as the ED, we can send follow-up, like, official letter saying, we haven't heard from this case. You have 45 days, it's 50 days, whatever the case may be. Can you send a response? I mean, obviously, we meet with them often, we will ask as well. But I think having that clear too would be helpful.
When you met with the commissioner, did you have this particular discussion?
We honestly, no, we focused more on the CRB side because the letter had just been issued, and so on, and we were talking about, again, the fact that he's sending the case to ID. We did not touch up, unfortunately, we did not touch upon ID. We don't have to make a decision now. I'm just sort of, but this is something that as I'm reading this, I was like, oh, wait. And so perhaps next time we can, have a better sense about what that could look like too. We don't have to settle on
I'm
that now.
thinking that, if they're going to kind of get used to the 45-day response, and it kind of makes sense for.
Right.
Said it'd be the 45 days.
Correct, right.
And Tony, I kind of agree too, but also like I kind of see where you're coming from with the shorter time frame
Right.
because it's not like this is a new it's
That's
not new
right.
information. Like I understand that like the CRB issues a decision, it's,
Right.
and it's final. But it's also like, I understand that it probably takes some time to process the
Right.
info. This is something that they've already
Exactly.
been investigating.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to think about the times that I've gone to the appeals court. And when the appeals court issues a decision, it's pretty immediate on the trial court. It doesn't.
Right.
But
But taking the other side of the coin, they're not used to responding to
Right.
OPAT at all.
Right, exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying? So,
fair enough.
yeah. And again, if they're used to the 45 days in the head as attorneys are with respect to responding to interrogatories, then,
Yeah.
makes sense. But I do agree that they should be able to do it much quicker with respect to.
I think 45 days.
Yeah, why don't we, and we'll have that language added as well, okay? But, so I'm glad I brought it up, because I saw a gap there too. So we'll continue to do these things where it sort of just comes up, and we'll slowly build out, okay? So that's number 2.201, okay? And then we'll vote everything together, I think it makes sense, okay? But we just agreed, on a 45 days response letter for the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel.
Yes.
Okay. Esther, do we need a vote?
You got it.
Yeah, so we don't need a vote, okay. Number 2, okay?
I have one edit on number 2.
Okay, thank you, go ahead.
In the first sentence, it says pursuant to the powers and duties set forth in section 12-17.9, findings made by the CRB are final, shall not be disturbed by the police commissioner.
Okay.
Need an and after final.
Yes, okay. I see it. Shall not be, okay. Yes, I see what you mean, yeah. And shall not be disturbed, okay. Edits. Right. Okay. Okay, any other edits on your end?
No. But I do agree with that change.
Okay. And yes, so that's on the, so good, right. The other thing, sorry, just to kind of add another wrinkle here. And we don't have to address everything all at once, but because we're here together, I'll at least lift it and then we see what we can do with it, okay? So the commissioner, it occurred to me, and we can look back in the ordinance again, that, and I'm not sure this captured this essence, that the commissioner need to do something. Like he doesn't, how's the best to frame it? So one, we determined he can't unsustain, right? That's clear here. But number 2, I think so if you say, suspend the officer for 5 days. He can't decide not to suspend the officer at all. Like he can shorten it, right, Esther?
Well, he can't decide not to give a discipline.
Correct.
He can do a different discipline, but he can't
Yeah.
decide that he's not gonna implement a discipline.
Based on our ordinance at
Okay,
least.
but he
right?
can reduce a 5 to 1 or reduce a
Right.
5 to nothing, and then another form of
He
discipline.
can reduce a fine if they won't
To a,
reprimand.
to a verbal.
Right, he could do that, but if it's sustained,
He's
then
gotta do something.
this gotta do something, right? That's, I think, I'm not sure this captured that. We don't have to go there, but that's something that Esther and I were talking about recently, and so that I figure I lifted, but we'll leave that alone for now. Okay, so that we can move on, okay? We'll, and also the next meeting, I'll bring that up in a more draft, space, okay?
Well, you guys can vote to make those changes to reflect the discussion.
Then, yeah, okay. Okay, so I'll draft something to
Okay.
that, right? And then we'll have language, again, new language to sort of, tweak and vote on, right? To make
Yeah, and
that
I think, just sort of thinking out loud, I think it's hard to. Because, we're not there, we're not at the police department, we don't know how these things are going, like, I would feel. Like, I want obviously the rule to be that our decision about whether or not this was misconduct is final, but. I almost, in some respects, feel like I would defer to the commissioner, at least in how to handle that discipline.
Right, good.
But I also agree that like reducing a 5-day suspension to a oral reprimand
Right.
that might just be a check mark in a box
Right,
also feels kind of disingenuous.
Yeah.
So I feel like there has to be some middle ground where maybe they can depart, there's some departure from the finding, but it's not a drastic departure.
okay, all right. Well, let me, take note of that.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if, what the language comes out, okay?
Happy to be wrong on this, but that's just how I feel.
Departure, okay.
That's what we use at the Department of Youth Services. They have a grid for punishment.
Right.
And they'll do an upward departure or a downward departure on the grid, depending on whether or not they think that there's aggravating circumstances.
Okay, so yeah, so I think though, again, I'm not looking at the language specific right now, but I think it just says that he has to issue some discipline.
Yeah,
The range upward or downward, is.
it's hard to,
Yeah, it's hard to pin. But we'll see what come up with. Thank you. Last one on this, is the subpoena powers. Again, it's very clear and succinct there. Not sure if it needs anything else, but
I don't think so. I mean, it gives you the authority as the executive director to do it as opposed to waiting for 2/3 of a vote, including us,
right,
which just kind of hampers your work of the organization. So it absolutely makes sense to give you the authority.
what if, sorry, I'm being very, language prone, but what if we just say instead of direct to use the subpoena power to issue subpoena? Instead of use subpoena power, it's just kind of like.
Okay,
Yeah, right, it's more active.
sure.
Language, right,
sure,
yeah,
the issue.
yeah,
Good issue.
yeah, it's just, sometimes the active language is, simpler.
A subpoena.
Yeah,
Lieu of a 2/3 vote.
Exactly.
yeah. To issue,
Basically, take out the word power
right, yeah, because yeah,
and lower the vote.
yeah, issue a subpoena, yeah. All right, okay, so that's that. All right, so we'll check this as part of the agenda, time check, 6 o'clock. So we got a couple more things and then we'll go into, I think, yes.
We need to vote on these individually.
Yes, no, we
want
should
to do it
vote.
as a whole, but now that we're talking about modifying 2.02, makes sense to have voted on each one individually.
Why don't we do that then, if you think it makes sense, we certainly should. Okay, so I hear a motion on section drafted section 2.01,
Yes,
to also, in addition to what's here currently in the document, to add a language in respect to 45 days response letters for
Okay.
internal affairs oversight panel decisions,
Yes.
reviews and decisions.
So move for that motion.
And I would second that motion.
Thank you. And actually, I will also, this is more of a nominal change, but I will also change CRB to Syrian
Spell
Review
out
Board.
the-
Yes,
yeah.
yes, at least at this point, because I wanted to stand alone. All right, so that's that, okay? Number two, I'll entertain a motion to, actually, two edits. One, to add the language of "and"
Yep.
between, in the sentence, the first sentence, between, final and shall.
Yep.
Add the word "and" in there. And then to draft a language that will try to capture the essence of disciplinary action still being issued by the commission.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, yes, but based upon that,
Mhm.
shouldn't we table it until our next meeting? Or is we waiting to include that?
we can.
I mean, I'd vote on it now, based upon what you said, but if we want to see it in final print.
Yeah, so, no, so the way I see it is sort of like when we come back, like the language, the core of it will be voted on, but the new language also will be the one that sort of we revisit, right? I mean, but to an extent, we're sort of trying to figure out how to do this as we go. So we can revisit anytime in a sense as we go, right?
All right,
So there's not, and remember, we voted on this last time,
yes.
right? So the language that we have, we should stick with, but the addition of the departures where it's new.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
yes.
So I'll entertain a motion in that perspective.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, and we should vote in that sense, you know, I
All in
vote.
favor?
All in favor, say aye, yeah.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Roll call,
Sam Harold.
Anthony Fugate,
Evander Cavallo, yes. Thank you, Esther. Last one is, I think we just made a minor change, right? So this one will make the final vote now, pending again, the nominal change, slight change of issue. Issue a subpoena versus use the subpoena power,
exactly.
okay? So having said that, I'll take a motion to approve this language as well.
So
So
moved.
103.
I second.
All right, and in that case, we'll take a vote.
Anthony
Anthony,
Fugate, yes.
Sam Harold, yes.
Evander Cavallo, yes, okay. All right, so let me just kind of do, again, time check, and there was a couple other things, and we don't have to vote on this now again, but there was a couple, this one, is this another slide over there? Maybe not, okay. This, no, I'm kind of watching the slide and got distracted, so I apologize. If it's not on the slide, maybe we won't
There
do it.
is. Sorry.
Okay, that's just technology, yeah. What, yeah, so, okay. Here, okay, this is the, what is it saying? Okay, perhaps we'll look back then.
We have the other business not anticipated.
No, there's before we move on from regulations, okay,
Yeah.
this is still on regulations. We'll just turn around, okay? Cause I'm not sure it may be, copy. Okay. This is, remember I was saying earlier, the new ones are two, this is the one that already existed, which, the Honorable Judge, Leslie, also participated in this, okay? So, and this is around, so two things, and there's more to this, the regulations, but I just wanted to focus on two of them. The two top here that you see, 101 and 102. One is around, again, as the title says, standard of proof, okay, the investigative standard of proof. That the standard proof, you see what I crossed out, that the standard proof, instead of saying now the standard proof is greater than the preponderance of evidence standard commonly used to prove civil liability and so on, and then talks about the reasonable doubt, which is a criminal. I'm saying that because we are, essentially, independent civilian entity that's essentially doing code of conduct for BPD internal, right? Kind of like, almost like internal affairs, right? But that we should use the same standard that they use,
I agree.
which is the preponderance of evidence, right? And I think, that this language actually came, from what they saw, the post commission.
Okay.
Now, and I had a conversation with the post director recently on this. The post commission, as you know, they can decertify officers. What they're doing is much more heavy, right? And it's obviously does not even go back to the commission, right?
Yeah.
Right, when they make a
That's right.
decision. So I think that's where they thought perhaps it made sense to have this high burden. But I thought that perhaps that we should be aligned. So civil, it's more likely than not, right?
That's right.
It's more than this preponderance of evidence, which is, not excuse me, the clear and convincing is really the language that we use in law. That's more 75% and beyond, right? Versus 51% likelihood, right? So that's my attempt here to sort of kind of clear that up. And the other thing, which I didn't do here again, which we'll take on next time, is it is not, does it say CRB? Oh, it doesn't say CRB, that's fine. Then the second one is 102, is just this thing about duplicate complaints, right? Now, what is that? What am I saying? People often will call us, they will call perhaps the post, they will certainly call BPD.
Right.
And it's a matter of like, obviously you don't want people to go to all three. It's like foreign shopping to a certain extent, right? You don't want that. But we're also are supposed to be as the purpose. One of the first sections says we're supposed to be the single entry, right? So we want them to come to us, right? So traditionally, and I think customarily, is that we get a complaint and we ask ID if the person already has a complaint with them, then we don't take it. And we should still continue to do that.
Okay.
I'm saying that we should not be barred, as they say here.
Okay.
That, like I literally just took out should.
Right.
I said, at least for now. For me, it's because say, for instance, right, one of the things, the way I think about it is that if something comes up in the news right now, right? God forbid involves a shooting, someone's killed. And of course, ID is gonna investigate it too, right? But the community is looking for us too, right? Right. I think the reason why they have this is because we do have in our ordinance that we can't interfere with criminal investigations. Right, that is a clear mandate in the ordinance, right? But we can still investigate we can still get the video, right? Without, the police, even if the police officer perhaps that's involved again in these allegations this hypothetical, doesn't have to come before us because maybe there's a criminal investigation, right? But we can still watch the video, make an assessment, right? So I think for me, I just felt like it was tying us down, right? Because we want to be able to move, even if Post is looking at it,
Right.
great, right? We're not going to try to do it in every case,
Right.
but we want the ability though to be able to do it.
Yeah,
Right, that's why I was sort of saying, and honestly, I was thinking of completely deleting the whole thing, but
yeah,
I was like,
wonder.
I was like, okay, let me just leave, I was thinking that we don't need that language at all. This is, to me, this is more of an internal policy thing, where you sort of say, this is what we do when we get cases. And we'll continue to do those things, right? To check with BPD if they have a complaint, because we can get it through ID, right?
Right.
In the end, when the person
Yes.
perhaps appeals. But we also don't want to hold ourselves because we're designed to be the alternative and we need to be able to move. Right, and that's how I see it. Again, I don't know why this came out this way, but obviously we're new and with fresh eyes sometimes it's good eyes too. So what are your thoughts on either one?
I would agree with one thing.
Okay,
I still think about 1.02.
Okay.
I see exactly where you're coming from with respect to that.
yeah,
I
right,
like getting rid of the shall.
Yeah.
My only thought would be is that like, if you wanted to be like true to the spirit of what you're saying, I guess would be to have like, some additional, maybe a couple sentences that says, there may be exceptional circumstances where
okay,
that would allow for a parallel investigation with the idea that it wouldn't interfere with a current investigation.
right. Well, yeah,
So
so
sort of like-
investigation by IA or.
I guess any of these,
yeah, so that's
post.
the thing that to bear in mind, and I, in case the mic is not picking up some of this stuff, but the thing to bear in mind is that what we're barred from doing is interference with criminal investigations.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
So IAD could, for instance, one example, okay, because this is just happening now.
Yeah.
We had, it was on a social media that, like there was a video essentially of a police officer, had, pulled his gun essentially out with some kids, youth, say kids, youth, I can't see who was in the video, but you could see the police officer there, you can hear the youth screaming, okay? And so that came to my attention. That this happened and it's a parking lot in, I think it's A1 downtown, so, okay? Now, total, just a video, you get a 30-second video, no way to determine what happened, right? Right, but if we want to investigate that, right? Now, I make a call to IAD, we're already looking at that. Right, but so if this, again, this is probably not the incident that I would go on that one. But if God forbid they did use his weapon. Right, and then actually I think some of the young people end up being arrested, so I'm not making any assumptions of the outcome of the investigation, right? I'm just making assessment of whether we want to be barred, right, particularly when things are moving quickly.
Yeah.
They're looking at it, we should still look at it, even though, again, in this incident, there still be a criminal investigation if this charge being filed. But doesn't mean we can't look at the video, doesn't mean that if the parents want to come and talk, that's sort of what I'm thinking. Because then we're not tying ourselves, and in this incident, what my concern is, again, is that it's us doing it, right? It's not like we're barred by ordinance or anything like that. But perhaps, I know time check, I don't want to get stuck on this, but I wanted to at least lift it and see.
I think that was a good catch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're gonna be like, oh, we already have it. And sometimes we have this sort of like, oh, well, do you have it? When did you get it? And it's literally like, we got it yesterday, you got it this morning. Like, no, like they came to us now. Right, and we're supposed to be a single entry, right? So no, I can't say now go to ID, because they called everybody, right? So that's sort of it could be a potential hinder for us if something really did come up. But I could see that, we're just talking about adding the language too.
And it would be like, what if there was a good opportunity for like mediation that we're losing out on through OPAT? Because there's this simultaneous investigation.
Correct.
Why can't we all sit down in a room and discuss what happened?
Yeah, that could be, again,
I mean,
that's,
I don't know what this situation specifically might not be where it's appropriate, but I could see situations where it would be.
right.
I'm with you, I can see where it would be, but not always.
Yeah.
All right, so so number one, it sounds like this just kind of, so we can kind of wrap up this segment. Number one is, you're okay with number one?
Very much so.
Okay, so let's take a vote on that,
Do we need a motion?
please.
Motion that the words that have been stricken by you be stricken and that the balance of that remain is my motion.
I like the balance of that. It's good. Some good legal language right there. I second that motion.
Thank you, and in that case, we'll take a vote.
Anthony Fugate, yes?
Sam Harold, yes.
Evandro Cavallo, yes. So, thank you. So that's number one, 103. 101? 101. 101. So 102, where are we landing? Should we come back to it? Should we add the language?
I'm happy to make the addition, like the change now, and then if we want to add something later, at least
Okay.
it'll soften it for the
Okay.
time being.
Okay, let's soften it for the
Right.
time being. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
All right, so
Absolutely.
I'll entertain a motion then.
So moved. So move.
And
at
I
this particular
second.
point, we accept it the way it is now written, removing the word shall into the word should. And that we may revisit this at a later time to soften or harden the language thereafter.
Okay. And I'll,
So good at these motions.
Yes, he is.
I'll second that motion.
thank you, and we'll vote at this point,
Anthony Fugate, yes?
Sam Harold, yes.
Evandro Cavallo, yes. Okay, so that's clear, okay. I think, that's it.
Yes.
Yes, okay, so we are, thank you for bearing with us. These meetings are, the reason why we having these discussions sometimes, in the weeds, as folks say, is because we're required, to have public discussions around our decisions as a board. I can't just call either one of them in private and say, can we just vote? Can you just do this, right? So this is designed that way for us to have these discussions in public. And that's why we exist too, because
And
at
the
our
word
core,
transparency.
thank you, at our core is about transparency as well. So I just wanted to, alert that to the people in the room and certainly the people on the board, at home. In case they're like, why are these lawyers over there just babbling stuff? We're required to do this, but,
You also do.
yes, yes, which we do as well. But we got some work done though. I thank you both. And so I think, again, let me just kind of review my notes here, make sure that I'm in the right space. If there is, so we just wrapped up again the discussion around regulations for OPAT commission, OPAT in general. Now we're gonna, the next part of the agenda is, should be any other business that perhaps I didn't anticipate that the two of you want to bring up?
None from me.
All right, thank
My
you.
board.
None
Sir?
from my end.
Thank you. And so at this point, we will go to the most important part of the meeting, perhaps, is the public comment period. And just to kind of remind everyone, if you're unable to make a comment today, particularly if you're watching online, you can send us an email through OPAT boards at boston.gov, or simply OPAT or Boston at boston.gov. That's the email that most people use as well, is OPAT at boston.gov. And at this point, though, we'll take any comments from the public. And please, this is generic instructions here. Please keep your comments brief. And obviously, we'll be here to try to be respectful of the venue and everybody here, particularly these fine gentlemen that are here on a voluntary. They're volunteers, by the way. I'm a full-time employee of the city. This is something that public should know more.
We're defense attorneys, so swears are okay.
Yeah, swears okay. Okay, good. But having said that, ma'am, I'm not sure if you'd like to make a comment.
Sure. So my name is Trisha Thomas. I grew up in Boston. I continue to live in Boston. I'm from the Melville Park area. I particularly showed up today to let my voice be heard, to continuously to be involved in the neighborhood and the community, and 3, to ask that something must be done, particularly in my neighborhood, which we're policed by C11.
Right.
It is my opinion that C11 is one of the worst police departments in the city, in addition to the most undereducated police department in the city, particularly myself as a woman who identifies as a person of color that continues to live in the neighborhood, grew up in the neighborhood. We're often policed by white individual, and there's no issue with white people working in the community, but there is certainly a continuous lack of respect for people of color living in the neighborhood. I particularly will be going before the board in the upcoming future, so I get that this is intended to be brief, but I'd like to say that I grew up in the community, my family continues to live in the community, and I am really disgusted, to say the least, of what's happening in C11 in particular. Very disrespectful to communities and Black people as a whole in that neighborhood. And I'll speak specifically for myself. I have been beaten by the Boston police. I have been berated by the Boston police. And I don't say this to toot my own horns, but I know for a fact I'm significantly more educated than the people that work in the Boston police at C11. We pay taxes. My perception of a police department is that they're there to protect and serve. They're not there to be judges, juries, adjudicators. They are to be fact finders. If they see something that is wrong, they're to handle it with a certain decorum, not to be beating Black homeowners in their homes when there are cameras all over their homes and nothing has been done about it. The other issue for me that's incredibly concerning is that as an educated person myself, most educated people strive to educate their children. And in our area, in that Melville Park area, which is very well known,
Yeah.
many of the young men of color have multiple college degrees that have applied to C11 and has had their applications turned down for high school applicants. And it's nothing wrong to have a high school degree, but to have a high school applicant, which is not as qualified, not as diverse, be turned down to police their very own neighborhoods. I want something to be done. I'm here to collaborate and see that a good outcome comes. And this is my first time in the meeting, right? So listening into some of the comments that, okay, you guys give a 5-day suspension, it goes back to the commissioner, whether it's a male or female, and the commissioner can say, oh, let's take this down to 0 days of suspension and a slap in the hand. I'm just going to tell you right now, listening to that, that is unnerving. That is not, the goal is never really to say we were punished in the community, that we should place punishment, right?
Right.
But there has to be some level of education. C11 in particular is run like a dirty gang. You know, they're busy policing the communities and things of that nature, but they themselves, I can tell you for all of the officers that I have interacted with, have been very, very disrespectful. And in addition to, they continue to behave that way because a board like this has not given them the type of reprimand where they should reconsider. So I particularly would like to see something being done. I'm not here to say because they did something bad to me, I want something bad done to them. But it is concerning that the lack of education, the hazing that goes on to the Black community and diverse populations as a whole, right? That's going on right there in that C11. Even if you come out and you say, hey, what's the problem? My name is such and such. This is my home. I live here and I own it. You will hear very disrespectful comments from Boston police like, you don't own no home. And that in itself, what is the purpose of that, right? I look to the Boston police officers in my neighborhood to protect and to serve me. I can tell you with a stern face, I don't trust any of them at C11. Not any of them has done their due diligence. And it is a shame to be in a commonwealth of Massachusetts to have educated people being treated the way that they've treated me. I'm frightened when my son's coming home on the train or the bus. You know, I'm panicked as to what C11 is going to do, not the people walking outside. I think we have a better faith with other people outside than the people in the blue. They should be our protectors, and they need a stern message from you all what they're there to do. We pay taxes, we upkeep the community. If communities of color do not have educated professionals living in them, then the community is practically doomed, right? Because we all serve a purpose. So I in particular, and it's also a message for the commissioner as a person of color himself, he needs to do more, not this just calling them in and saying, oh, Pat says 5 days, I'm going to give you 0 days. I want education. I want to see what they're doing to fix these problems. And I want respect, full respect in my community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Question, have you filed any complaints?
I filed tons of complaints.
Have you filed a complaint with OPAT or just directly with the?
Yeah, as I said, I'm going before them. Yeah, I've filed tons of complaints
She
about
has a case
C11.
that's coming up, 13th. I think that's the next CRB meeting, right?
Yeah, November 13th.
Right. But ma'am, I just want to say thank you for coming. And obviously,
My pleasure.
hopefully you said it, so you're gonna be there, to discuss the case. We can't do that here in a sense. because we have to, the officer, have to liberty to come to, like, well, we make the complaint, I assume it's the officer, I don't know the details off the top of my head in terms of what the complaint is, and I don't wanna go into it, is what I'm saying, but I appreciate you, you know, your dedication in coming here, and discussing, you know, the issues that you see, and I will say, in addition to what, a few guys just said, and we also recommend training as well, education, as you alluded to, right, to make sure the officers, particularly, you know, around, you know, treatment of others. As I think you were here for some of that comment in terms of some of the cases we are seeing is about disrespectful treatment. So you're not, you know, you're not the only one. I would say that in a sense that people do come to our office. I think that's one of the top 3 complaints that we get is around disrespectful treatment. So it perhaps it's a pattern, and perhaps we can look to see if C11 we're getting more C11 cases of disrespectful treatment than other parts of the city. So that's what we're here to do, in a sense. And if need be, we certainly can have a conversation, not only with the commissioner, but also with the captain, you know, of C11. I wonder if I'm somewhat familiar. I used to live in Phillips Corner. Now I'm in Ashland. I lived up and down Dot Ave, as we say, for many years. Are you one of the people that are like in there, like, you know, is there an organization that's like, you know, the Melville Park organization where you meet once in a while? Do you go to those meetings?
I do,
Does the CSO go to those meetings too, right? What they call.
sometimes.
Okay,
Sometimes.
community service office, sir?
I've
Yes,
spoken to the community service officer,
Okay.
which sometimes can be helpful and sometimes not.
Okay, okay. Because that's another way that we can try to be, particularly if it's beyond, as you alluded to, beyond you and some of the things you're seeing, systematic issues. That could be another way, another person to talk to. But again, thank you, I should say, for coming. And hope again, obviously in a couple of weeks, we'll see you in the office again. Okay.
I really appreciate you coming and talking.
Absolutely.
It means so much that you're here. It sounds terrible.
It's horrible.
Okay.
And I'm so sorry.
Hopefully we can get some action.
Yeah, and I really, like, I just feel like a really good sense from you that you're very community oriented. You seem really, like you're articulate, you've come across really, wonderfully.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate you coming. Thank you.
And I think with the annual report, didn't the most complaints come in
From
Dorchester,
Dorchester,
which is C11?
yes. Well, yes.
Yes,
Dorchester, most of Dorchester C11, you're right.
most Dorchester.
Yeah,
And I think you indicated in the annual report, the number 2 amount of complaints is disrespect. Number 1 was
negligence.
duty.
Number 2 is disrespect. Number 3 is abuse of authority.
Yeah.
So again, you're not, certainly, you know, you're on the money, as they say, this stuff that we're
Right,
seeing,
falls in line with what the numbers.
what the numbers are showing, right? So,
Now it's a matter of getting something done.
all right, yeah. Well, thank you again, okay?
Thank you.
And I see no one else ready to make any comments unless I'm not seeing anyone, right? I am. All right, so it's 6:30 almost, perfect, an hour and a half into this. And we are done, gentlemen. Again, thank you for attending the meeting, this public meeting. We'll have, the OPAT Commission will have another meeting in December, as we just alluded to, in November 13th, the CRB, the Civilian Review Board chaired by Sam, will have a meeting. And I know IOP, the Internal Affairs Oversight panel's next meeting is December 1st, I think.
It is.
Tomorrow, as I said earlier, we do coffee hours throughout the city. Tomorrow, every other Friday, tomorrow, I will be in South Boston. We have been in Dorchester. In fact, I was at Ashley's, the old Ashley's, the family down there, you know that. So we've been all over the city, and we'll be in South Boston tomorrow. So just wanted to make those announcements for people that are paying attention to the work that we're doing. And having said that, again, at this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Hi, Sam Harold.
Aye, Tony Fugate.
Aye, Van Cavallo, and it's exactly 6:30. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody. Thanks for the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.